Welcome back to Her Epiphany. It's been a crazy week for me, but I'm here. How's everybody doing? I have someone special here today. She actually was my parenting coach after I had my last son, Mr. Aiden. Um, I went through classes with her to reprogram myself far as becoming a parent, how to parent my kids. So this is a special lady that I hold dear to my heart because sometimes we're taught how to become parents. There's no handbook, so we learn it from our parents. However, it's not always the right way. So I want to welcome Miss Dr. Tara Doty. Welcome.
Thank you, Tina. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am Dr. Tara, and I am the founder of Sage Wellness Group. We are a consulting company that focuses on just overall wellness, and that comes in the form of like relationships, all types, like parenting, with the understanding of like the very first relationship you have is with yourself, and every relationship you have is really going to be like a byproduct of that. And so our focus is really on like practicing mindfulness to make sure that we are making conscious choices. And that's something that I'm sure we'll get into, but like parenting, like you said, like we're just pulling from what we've experienced. And so sometimes we may do things and think that certain practices are like supposed to be done, but we're not even thinking about whether or not we ourselves want to do it. And then also a lot of support for people who have experienced trauma, which for me is everybody, like right, all of us have been through or survived something that we could be something that we would count as traumatic. And so with that, we do parenting classes, we do workshops with children. We train therapists. My background is in clinical psychology. And so we train therapists in order to like help them use like trauma-informed approaches, restorative practices approaches, mindfulness-based approaches, so that they can provide people with like tangible skills. So it's not just like I'm talking about this thing, and while that's good, like I don't have a next step, or I don't have another option.
So I've helped them find solutions in order to overcome certain situations.
And like for me, it's like help them find solutions like while they're overcoming it, like because the process is probably the hardest part.
So one of the things I learned when I first started therapy was my therapist, I had to be like 28. It was after I had my 17-year-old. And I was going through some complications, marriage falling apart, just had my son. I had just had a cesarean. My son went through a lot of trauma and physical illness. So the therapist told me, she was like, just repeat to yourself, it's okay to not feel okay.
Yes.
And that's the total opposite of what I was taught. I was taught that you had to be on your P's and Q's. You had to, be this perfect person, which kind of like made me a perfectionist. But that's a part of that type of trauma. Because you're beating up on yourself.
Yes. Because perfectionist means that like I'm able to pass judgment onto somebody. And in relationships, how perfectionism comes out is like there only can be one of us who's perfect. And so if it's me, then you automatically are not. And so sometimes like unconsciously, we are looking for imperfections in the people that we love because it's about control, right? Like I can mold myself and control myself in a way that doesn't allow me to give myself any grace. And so then I can't give you any grace either.
So how do you go about giving yourself grace?
I think so. As a recovering perfectionist myself, I think mindfulness is one tool that has, and I'm going to say this, and like I mean it. Like I think for me that has literally saved my life. Like we as especially Black women, we often find ourselves in that, like, we got to be the perfect everything, right? The perfect boss, the perfect employee, the perfect parent, the perfect partner. And so when we mess up, like, we don't need anybody else to judge us. We're already critical of ourselves.
Right.
And so, like, one of the things that I noticed that I was doing is, like, when I was criticizing myself, like, oh, Dad, you shouldn't have done it. Then I would be like criticizing the criticizing that I'm doing to myself. And so for me, like with mindfulness, it's like, oh, I'm doing that. Like, I'm sure a lot of people who, and you normalize it. I'm sure a lot of people who are raised in a certain way do this too. Like, I'm going to choose it. Yes, I'm going to choose. Yes, and being human is not like a deficit, right? Like, oh, I'm only human. Like, no, I get to be imperfect. I get to experience lessons and mistakes in a way that, like, allow me to learn more about myself and become a person. Yeah,
and love yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So
so I had something happen, pretty traumatic happened this week, where my son had a severe asthma attack. Oh my gosh! Like, I don't wish that on anybody. I think that was the worst of the worst of the worst. You know, to see my child just literally just pass out. Nobody can do anything, but you just had to wait for the medicine to kick in. And to me, I felt like I was going to lose my son. But, because it happened, I was going for it. And I felt like that was really hurtful because, number one, I do my best.
Right.
The best that I can do. I feel like when it comes to, anybody that's close to you, family, friends, whoever, there's a line of support. Especially when it comes to a situation like that. So within dealing with that, him having the asthma attack and not having that support, I think it just like ripped everything out of me. And it's like, well, what do I do? Who do I turn to? You know, because he's trying to figure out, okay, what just happened?
Right.
He's got to recoup, but I got to stay strong and being beat up on at the same time.
Right.
So how do you deal with situations where you're doing your best, but you're being critically judged by people who are supposed to support you?
So for me, I think practicing like our own armor is very, very good. So a lot of times, one of the things that I see is, like, especially with parents, we are, and this is natural, like, we are always looking for like support and validation and comfort, because we often have to like pour that out to our kids, and so we need it poured back into us. And so when we don't get it, it creates a lot of defensiveness and walls. And so for me, the advice that I would give is, like your therapist said, like reminding yourself, like, it's okay. Right. And like, let's say it was your fault. Let's go there. Like, and I'm big on let's roll with it. Right? Let's roll with it. You right? Okay. I could have done something better. I could have. I still can give myself grace. I can still forgive myself, right? Like, because it being my fault is very different than it being my intention. It was not my intention for my son to have the worst asthma attack that he's ever experienced, right? Even if it is my fault, right? And if it is my fault, like you said earlier, like, I deserve forgiveness,
right? Exactly.
Right. So it's not about like, then we are like allowing ourselves to, one, stop the debate where like I have to now, I'm already stressed out about my child. Now I got to argue with you about why it's not my fault, or like shut down in some kind of way, and then I'm replaying it. That may be adding to like any guilt or anything. I feel like, give it. Hey, let's pull up a chair. Hey, here's my I made a mistake. Right. And again, like that mistake, like fault is not intentional.
And after you do that, it's like, okay, what can I say?
What can I say now? Right. That you stop the argument. Yeah, exactly.
So it's not only protecting yourself from being hard on yourself, but others being hard on yourself.
Yes, it stops the conversation, and it's no more room for debate. I think sometimes when we deal with critical people, one thing that we always underestimate is like their commitment to being right. Right. And so like if I say, well, no, I did this, like you're already waiting for me like to say that so you can say your thing. Like there's no listening going on or no like listening rather with the point of trying to understand. And so if I give it to you, then like you said, like the conversation has to stop because I don't have an ego or I don't have like a dog in that fight. You know, like there's no ego attached to it. And what is attached to it is my ability to acknowledge that I'm still deserving of grace.
Exactly. That's funny. I heard that earlier, maybe yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Giving yourself grace.
Oh, consider this confirmation.
Right.
Yes. And I think that's something like, especially as parents, as women, we don't get it from society, right? We don't get it from that. And I'll just speak for myself. Like that's not something that I saw passed down to them. Like women were praised for being like the martyrs, right? Like, oh, they'll give you the shirt off their back and they'll do this. And like that was the strong woman. And so, like for me, like grace is like self-care. Grace is like revolutionary because it's like, no, like I get to be human just like everybody else.
But the other side to that I'm finding a lot of women are going through. I actually listened to a panel this morning and they were saying, people that were my age that they remember their mom being a strong woman, giving the shirt off of her back, making sure the kids were okay, coming home cooking, going to work, whatever it was, but she had nobody to carry her.
Yes.
And how do you as a woman, not only, just being in a relationship, but how do you let people know, hey, I'm supporting this, you, everything. How do you get yourself to the point to where, hey, I need somebody to give me a pat on my back or rub my shoulder or, hey, sit down, put your feet up. How do you get to that point to where people need to not only see you as being strong, but you're vulnerable too. You get weak too.
Right.
So
I think for me, like, redefine or expanding our definition of what strong is, because to me, strength is being vulnerable. Right. It's a lot of people who are strong who are not, like, you're not strong. Like you are wearing your attitude on your sleeve. Like, yeah, you do it all, but you cussing us out while you're doing it. Or eating while you're doing it. You're not sleeping while you're doing it. So like you're neglecting everything that's about you. And there's no balance. Right. And so for me, I always talk about before you have a conversation with anybody else, you have to have that conversation with yourself. So at what point, like how much does it take? And this goes into something that we call trauma tolerance. Like how many nights do you have to not sleep well in order for you to say, I need to get good night's sleep today, right? How many health scares do you have to have before you say, you know what, I'm gonna take a break and make sure I eat something that goes along with the goals that I have. And so you can, like, if you say to everybody else, I'm going to do this, I need a break, I need to do this, and you don't take a break, you're just reinforcing that your boundaries with yourself are weak. And so that's going back to like our first point, like that's part of the process where we need a lot of support. I think for me, one of the things that I've seen among women is that so many of us don't even know what we like because you don't have a chance to process anything. You get the kids up, you make them breakfast, you take them to school, you're right to work, you on a phone call consoling your girlfriend, your mother, your cousin, and there's never any time for you to sit with yourself.
You're made to feel like you're wrong.
You're wrong if you took that time, right? Like, and so isn't it funny, like how people say you're selfish when you do stuff for you, like when they want you to do stuff for them versus like them being selfish. And so I think. And that's why that conversation with ourselves is so important, because when you decide to take that stand, you have to, like, that stand has to come with expectation that there's going to be pushback. So I always call boundaries a vending machine, right? And so if everyone is used to me, for example, like I'm the one who plans all the family gatherings, or I'm the one who, all the kids stay at my house. And I'm saying, you know what, I need this weekend for myself. But everyone knows, like, the kids stand at my house, if we can think of a vending machine, it's like item C7. So I'm pressing that item and it comes out a little bit and it gets stuck. Right. What do? We shake that vending. Yeah, so like I'm gonna get mad at you. I'm gonna say you selfish. I'm gonna say this, and that's usually when people cave in. Like, you know what? Let me go ahead and drop it.
Right.
But if I can plan for that, right? So if I know, okay, I'm gonna set this boundary, and this is what I expect. So what do I need to do before this conversation, and what do I need to do after this conversation, so that I will prepare myself and I'll allow myself the space to cry, to scream, to color, to do something that helps me get that out. To de-escalate, get that stress out. Then I can start to strengthen that muscle, because it is hard, because so many people are, especially women, are defined by our roles, right? Like, I'm a great this, I'm a boss, whatever. And again, like, we haven't taken the time to sit with ourselves to know who we are outside of those things. Who are you outside of?
Because I feel like at that point, you're just covering up who you really are.
Exactly.
And how you really feel. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, I'm the boss, I'm this, I'm that. And I feel like when people get to that point, they're just covering it up, and there's a lot of trauma on the inside. So they'll use their business, money, who they're with, to cover up
the insecurity. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Because, like, who I am, I've been taught is not competent enough, is not capable enough. And so when we think about, like, mood disorders like anxiety or depression, both of those things are fears, right? So, like, anxiety is I'm fearful that I'm not going to be capable enough to do this next thing. Right. And depression is I'm looking back and I'm judging myself for not being capable enough for what has happened. And so it all comes down to, like, capability. And so I'm going back to what your therapist said, like, I'm doing the best that I can, and letting that be enough. Right? Like, I'm competent enough
instead of sitting there beating up.
Yeah, exactly. And how you made those,
reliving your past.
Exactly. Reliving your past and letting that kind of make you fearful for what could happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I always tell myself, I'm glad for my mistakes.
Yes.
I'm glad for what I went through. Mm-hmm. It may have not been the best. Mm-hmm. I'm glad for me being able to listen to those, my elders, or when I thought that they were being mean or trying to just make me do certain things. Because back then we had to, I remember getting in a tub, cleaning out collard greens in a tub, or, scaling the fish, or, just doing certain things, but actually they were building character.
Yes.
They were building me to not have anxiety because I hated the scales.
Yes. Right.
Yes. I was so terrified of them until, I was forced to do it that way now.
Right. It's
I can do it with no problem. So if you overcome your fears, then you really don't have to beat up on yourself.
Right.
And sometimes it takes certain situations, certain people to help you overcome.
Right. And, like, the people, like, everybody is a lesson for us, whether they come with pleasure or pain, right? Like, everybody, it's still a lesson. And it becomes, like, for me, the test is, can I remain true to myself during both? Because we don't oftentimes think about, like, people who bring pleasure as, like, being distractions or being unhealthy, but they can get us off track, just like people who bring us pain too, and so can I keep my foundation of who I am and what I value, regardless of what the situation is.
So I never thought about that, but yeah, people who bring pleasure can really distract you just as well as somebody, and knowing that you're strong enough and able to handle the situation, when to get in, when
to get out, right? Like how you were saying, like how people can hide behind these things, right? So I can hide behind abundance, just like I can hide behind being broke, because both of them, a lot of times we don't talk about, like, both of them are from, like, a scarcity mindset, right? Like, if I have enough, right, I don't need more, and if I have enough, I'm not lacking anything, right? So abundance is like, I gotta prove that I have over like all of this extra stuff, and you never really reach the top, right? It's always something else to get. And so both of those extremes can because they can change our sense of identity for ourselves, you know. And so that's why I say that, you know, it's about can I remain myself come what may. Because a lot of people can. Yeah. I mean, and
I feel like in life, too much of anything and too little of anything can be detrimental.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people, again, use that stuff to hide behind how they really feel about themselves. You know, can I be? And then sometimes you can become complacent with just having enough.
Right.
And then something got to shake you and say, "Hey, it's time to move."
Right.
You know, I've been there. And I had to learn my lesson from that. You know, I had a traumatic experience happen to where, you know, I was like, okay, God was saying move, and I was like, I'm fine. I could do another year.
And then something,
and then something traumatic happened, and I was like, oh, I left and they never go back, you know. And I was talking to a close friend today, actually, where she was like, Tina, you don't want the universe to shake your atmosphere, because if the universe shake your atmosphere,
you laying right on that
are
floor.
you going to be ready for that?
Yes.
So you need to figure out what's the next step you need to make, and I can take corrective criticism, and it's okay.
And it's good.
Because guess what? That's my friend.
Yes, exactly.
And your friend's not going to always tell you what you want.
Right.
You know, and we get mixed up with that as well. You know, we want everybody to be in alignment or agreement with what we're doing. But sometimes when people come along, they can see that, hey, it's a crack right there. You're about to trip. You know, but hey, if I'm not watching for you, then you could have just tripped. So it's okay to accept corrective criticism.
I mean, I think that's why we have, you know, people in our life. People should be a mirror to you all the time. And I think similar to what you said about like, you know, all these things that we can hide behind. If I struggle with taking accountability, right, I'm going to hide behind, right, nobody is there for me, or I don't trust, you know, there has to be a part of someone's healing journey where they can trust somebody, right? Like you're going to have to put your trust in something.
You can't do it by yourself.
You can't. And so, like, what does that look like, and how do you begin to unpack it? And then just to go back on something you said too, because I want to co-sign that about like getting like complacency, like what I'm talking about is like satisfaction, right? Like it's not like being stuck, because one of the things that you said that I want to highlight, like when we feel called to move and we don't, that's stuck. That's not satisfaction. Like no, I'm trying to elevate you or protect you, and it's like, oh no, I'm gonna say like no, you're not. Like you didn't hear me the first time.
When I say I've really learned my lesson from that situation, and you know, it was just me, myself, and God.
Yes.
You know, and it was more so him saying, I told you. I told you. You know, so I've really learned my lesson. You know, sometimes we gotta have that fire put up under us. So another topic I really want to get to is like today's social. You know, this social media, social communication. You know, I feel like things have really changed far as relationships, family, you know, getting to actually really know each other, communicating. How do you feel about the big change?
It's scary a little bit. Like it's something that I've seen like explode since the pandemic, when we had to be by ourselves and people literally depended on like technology to make connection, and it feels or it seems to me like we haven't been able to get ourselves out of that yet.
I feel like it pushed us more
into the extreme. And so like people, I remember I was taking my son in a group of his friends somewhere, and somebody said something funny, and instead of laughing, one of the friends said LOL. And I was like, oh, you can laugh in the car. Like you can laugh, like you don't
They stuck.
Yes, they're stuck,
Yeah.
right? And so like you don't know what we call like emotional intelligence. You don't know cues and body language. You get this false sense of self because we have all these what they call like keyboard gangsters, and to me, especially as it relates, well, I'm not even gonna say it relates to just kids because adults get into it too. When we were growing up, your quote unquote comparison was your neighborhood, your city, right? But now you're on social media, you seeing people on different continents, you seeing what they're doing, you seeing what they're portraying to be doing, and you are judging yourself, whether it's a good judgment, like, oh, I'm doing better than, or an unhealthy judgment, like, well, how did they get here? And I'm not still here. It's a huge one, right?
But like my whole thing is, a lot of people are performing.
Yes.
Like, or they're only showing one piece of their life, like one moment.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it may not even be today. I didn't even know it was a thing to like post pictures that you took
like a week ago, 2 months ago, right?
Yeah. So,
and you're judging off of something, and that's one thing where social media really gets us brainwashed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So where we see something visual and we take it and we run with it, or hear it in music, and then you take it knowing that's not how you were raised, that's not what you were taught, that's not where you're supposed to be going in life, but because I hear it in the music, I see it on the internet. Oh, I want that.
Yes. Or like I want to. So not only do I want that, or like I want to engage in that type of relationship. So my son is 18, and we were driving yesterday, and a Troop song came on, and so I'm gonna date myself. So if any of you who are under 40, you may not know who Troop is, but Troop song came on, and I was like, do y'all have any love songs that are not just about like sex or like take his money or do this? And he was like, this one. He's like, oh wait, that's about that. He's like, well wait. And he Mary J. Blige, and I was like, "She's mine." Like, no, like, what
that's
is
not your generation?
That's not your generation.
Right,
and so, like, you're hearing, like, our young people are hearing this, our adults are hearing this, and like, it's changing. I'm so glad you brought up social. It's changing the way that we even see like this person I can build a partnership with, right? Like, I can't get money from you and be with you. Like, I gotta get the bread and leave. Like, I can't stay.
And then another thing, which I have been playing on my advertisement for my show, my event coming up.
Oh yes,
the Her Epiphany Live Podcast. That's going to be on April 30th.
Yes,
and it's going to be from 2 to 4. So we want to see you all there. However, I've been playing Sierra's song, The Girls.
Right, yes.
And I had to sit back because I heard a couple of songs after that, and I was like, it's either about the girls with the girls, and the men with the men.
Yes.
Remember back in the day when they had the video vixens,
and
they were more so like, about the women and looking at. Now you see that videos is more so either. A lot of them are degrading women, not just having them dance, but some degrading stuff, or they're with their boys. Yes. And then the women are with their girls. It's not nothing intimate, social. It's more so about me, look at me.
And I'm competing against you, or like you are. Like,
so do you think that's becoming a big problem as far as relationships?
Yes.
How is the younger generation going to come together intimately, and have relationships when it's man against woman? Now I feel like it's man against woman.
I agree.
We're already having some issues in our generations, but I'm looking at theirs and I'm just like, what do they have?
Right. And I think so, not just like the social part with like the songs, but even when you have people who have and tell your crew don't get me, but like who have whole relationships via text message, right? So
I can't do that.
I can't either. Like, I don't hear your voice. I don't know what your inflection means. I don't know. You writing in all caps. Are you yelling at?
We're becoming socially numb.
Yes, and like and stunted because. We are social beings, right? Like from the moment you have a baby, that baby is looking around the world to see social cues as to like, what am I supposed to do? And and that's another conversation. Like us exposing our kids to technology so young, where they don't even get a chance to to like understand emotions, right? Or understand like pain points or whatever. Like because we distract them. You crying? Here, watch this TV show versus soothing them, right?
Right.
And so as you grow up in that, like you learn even more to not honor what your body needs, right? Like, and so what happens with a lack of social connection is like you'll feel a sensation in your body, right? So like I'll feel jealousy or I'll feel happiness, and then what happens is I'll tell a story about that, right? Like this person is doing better than me, or this person doesn't love me, or this person didn't, answer the phone when I text, or we went out and their phone was down. I always thought phone down was a sign of respect, but like now they just like you cheat. I'm like I thought it was like I'm showing you my undivided attention, And so what happens is I feel this sensation like ooh, like my heart beat a little bit fast, so I feel this fit in my stomach, and instead of being able to like soothe myself, like oh Tara, like tripping, like or like oh that's just, like I feel tightness or I feel nervous, I'm automatically waiting for you to come back and running with this story that I have created based on social media, not based on our relationship.
Right.
And so you have like all of these outside influences that are intentionally fed to you on how to deal with a life that you are giving up control of, because you are no longer like one of the things that is and the values of our company, Sage Wellness Group, is that people are the experts of their lives. And so if the first thing you do in the morning is get on your phone, like you don't even know what your thoughts are, right? You taking the thought of somebody else, you gotta hope you land on the first good post, Right. And so, so yes, I agree 100%.
So actually, social media, I had a cousin or a couple cousins because I was born in a religious family. Social media is the devil. I'm not getting on it. And now I'm kind of seeing where, they come from, because you can either let it work for you,
right,
or it's going to work against you. And if you don't have the knowledge, then you're just going to fall into one of the traps. Yes, there's a lot of traps.
It is, and you can find whatever audience you want. Right? You want to be this kind of person, it's a handle for that. You want to be this kind of person and have these beliefs, it's a handle for that. All of it, to me, works on fear. Right? So don't let this be you. You need my masterclass on this, right? Don't let this be you. You need to do this. Right. And so all of it works on us being scared. Right. And so again, that's that lack mentality. And so
when it's more so to manipulate your mind.
Yes.
And also for the money.
Yes. And that's why I love what you're doing so much, because if I'm able to use it, if I'm able to have that balance, like when we think about like self-care, so many people get into this consumption mindset, like, oh, I'm gonna go have a drink, that's consuming, I'm gonna go shopping, that's consuming you. But like you're using social media to create. Right. Like I'm getting this out of me. Right. Versus like taking all this stuff in and like making my own story about it.
Because I feel like social media is a bandage for everybody.
Yes.
Nobody's, I can't say nobody, because actually I've created my social media to what's going to cater for me. So when I pick up my phone or look on my computer, it's positive messages.
Yes. Same.
That are running across, or motivation, or somebody who's speaking positively in someone's life. So people have to realize it doesn't have to be you hiding behind who you are. To create a person that you're not.
Right.
And everything's not for everybody, and it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to be you, and it's okay for you to create whoever you want to be. In real life.
Right.
In real life.
That part. And hashtag in real life.
Because they want to, I can pretend who I am. I actually watched a young lady do that. And it's just mind-boggling to me, because, I actually tried to help this person, become a better person. But the trauma stemmed so far back to where and also still social media still
Plays on that, right? Yeah.
playing on it.
Mhm.
So I watched her get drawn right back into it, and it's sad
Mhm.
because she'll never know who she really is or love herself for
Right.
who she
Mhm.
she is.
She
as a
is,
person.
right. Mhm.
So, how do you what methods can you take
Mhm.
to kind of draw back, know who self is,
Mhm.
learn who self is,
Mhm.
and begin to create something more healthy
Mhm.
for your life, your environment?
So one of the things that I always start with where we are, right? So if you are on social media all day, every day, me telling you get off social media for a day is not realistic, right? So can you commit to 15 minutes after I wake up? Like I'm awake 15 minutes, right? And I'm going to write down my intentions for today. Like what is it that I want, and not what I want to do, because so many of us get caught up in to-do lists and they just get overwhelming. But like how I want to feel, right? Like so, even if I have to do my to-do list, there's something that I teach called segment intending. Like so, for each segment of my day, how do I want to feel after I have done each thing, right? And so, if I don't feel that way, what is it that I can give myself, right? What is it that I can, and we can do like the five senses. What is it that I can see? What is it that I can smell? What is it that I can hear, taste, touch? That will help me achieve that. Yeah, get there, right? And if I can't do it with all the many things that I have to do in my day, can I do it with the first thing, right? And what we do is we build that muscle, and what it does is it creates more motivation and more stamina so that I can start to do harder things. I always also tell people, and this goes back to like the Black woman, superwoman syndrome. Like start where it's easy. Give yourself some low hanging fruit, some easy wins. Like we don't gotta go to that conversation with our girlfriend from like, no, don't do that yet. Yeah, one step at a time, right? And like if you can't swim, like float. Like you don't have to like just float. Just allow yourself to still be, right?
Right.
And so when we think about like beginning our journey to understand ourselves, I think for me, segment intending is such a is an easy one because so many of us can run down our laundry list of things to do. Like I was like, "What you doing today, girl? I got this. Yes, I got this to do. I got this to do. I got this." So you already have that anyway. Can you pause for 30 seconds? And if you can't do again, like the whole 20 things on your list, can you do one? After I just like I said, I just came from running errands for my mom. After I run errands, how do I want to feel? I want to feel like, oh, that was good. That was nice. That was cool. You had a good time, you know. And if I don't, what is it that I need to do? Maybe I need to hear my favorite song. Maybe I need to ride with my windows down, you know, to get me to a place where it's like, ooh, that's okay. And what it teaches me is like, oh, I like that, right? So the next time I feel overwhelmed or I feel something, I already have something in my toolkit that I'm going to start to that I can use that caters to me, right? Like nobody is telling me, you know, this is what I need. I can try those things and see how they work. But I'm again like becoming the expert of myself.
Yeah, also you don't have to accomplish it today. Sometimes it takes a while.
Years. Yes, it takes.
Sometimes it takes a while.
Sometimes we're gonna be working on it for the rest of our lives. I mean, yes, because like we're always healing. Like because the world is always changing. And so as we change or as we resist change, like we're going to continuously learn things about ourselves. And that's something else. I'm glad you said it. Like, so judgment is one of the hardest, both emotions and mindsets to let go of, because so many of us have been raised in judgment. You good or you're bad. Like even if the judgment is good, right? And so we'll go ahead and see.
That's the word for this week.
Yeah. Yes.
Judgment.
Yes. Yes.
You know, the judgment can be so crucial.
Yes. Yes.
Whether it's good or bad.
Yes, exactly. We were still raised in
it. Last week, like I said, was very traumatic. But that judgment part, when I say it was like somebody took a 2x4 and just slapped me with it. You know, and I'm not a judgmental person. You know, I try I think I've reprogrammed myself and I've changed myself. so I could think without passing judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I try to put myself in someone else's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, why are they thinking this way?
Right.
Or what could have triggered it?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
you know, trying to figure it out. Sometimes you just can't figure
Yeah.
it out. It's
My go-to is like, I don't know that person's life. Like if I can't give you the grace, like, you know what, I don't know your life. Like I don't know what you would have had to go through to act this way, but it must have been horrible. Like so, like hey, go ahead. But for me, it's like if we can change that judgment into curiosity, like you said, right? So instead of me judging somebody or judging myself, right? Like, oh, I wonder what is going on with them, for them.
Right.
You know, I wonder what this is bringing out for them. But even for ourselves, like, oh, I'm judging myself, right? If we can catch it, but allow ourselves to be curious about it.
Right.
And I think,
and that opens up the door for other people's perspective.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just not this narrow road. I'm thinking it, so that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always that
No.
way. A lot of times we figure out, you know, just we're thinking the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
and it allows us to like give ourselves options.
Right.
So like we met, and I was telling you this when we were talking about it on the phone. Like I've been doing parenting classes for over 20 years, and they are the hardest classes I do because people, and no, I get it. Like, no, this is how we do it in this family, in this community, in this household. This is how we do it. And the goal of life is like, that's fine.
Right.
And yet, are you willing to consider another option? Right? When we're able to be curious, like when we're judging, it's only this way or this way for ourselves and other people. But if I can allow myself to be curious, I'm like, well, maybe there's another option.
And you're opening up the door for you not to be putting so much stress
on yourself. Right, exactly. And I was just about to say that, like,
just relax.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's easier to let it flow.
Yes.
And let it happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Than, you know, because I was programmed.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yes.
And if it didn't happen my way, that's where you go to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just be curious.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Can
I be curious about it? Right? Yeah. And like find you, because what I was going to say is like, unless we have programmed ourselves to enjoy the judgment, like, and we have to accept that too, right? Because sometimes being curious about it gives us opportunity to heal some things,
right?
And we like, I'm not ready for that yet, right? Like, oh, I wonder why when I get angry, I behave this way, or I act this way, or I say these things. And the curiosity may lead us to saying, you know, that's how I was raised and by somebody who loved me or whatever else, or that's how I've been taught to advocate for myself in relationships. And like sometimes you have to sit with that for a while too, and allow yourself to grieve and heal that, and then choose intentionally that I can
other options.
Just
One thing I did when I was in my 20s, when I was going to hair school,
mm-hmm.
I connected myself with a young lady, and I have yet to see this young lady since.
Mm-hmm.
I think her name is, I'm not even going to try to guess right now, but she actually had a beautiful spirit, like an aura about herself, and in the midst of anything that happened in hair school,
right?
Come on now, like it's a lot going on.
Yes.
She was just balanced, soft, and caring in
Mm-hmm.
spite of it all. And I clung to her because I wanted to learn how to handle situations like that. And it actually worked. So I tell a lot of people, if you're lacking in some kind of way, instead of judging yourself, if you know that there is something wrong, figure out a way to fix it. Because somebody else can help you fix it. But we get so stuck in, this is who I am. This is how I was raised. This is what I was taught. So just because you were raised like that, your family allowed you to do it, and it was toxic, doesn't mean that that's the right way to handle it. And that's why you're going through the same patterns that you've been going through. So
I agree. Like, I think, so one of the things that I'll always ask people to know whether or not, and this is a protective thing that I do for myself, is, are you willing to look at this differently? Are you open to looking at this differently? And if they say no, I am quiet, right? And if they say yes, I will give like one thing, like, what do you think about trying this, right? Or like, tell me what this would look like in your life. So I'm not shooting them. I'm not like saying like, well, you should do this or you should do this, or I'm not telling them what to do. I'm giving them the opportunity. Yeah, again, like, because my goal too, like what you just described, Tina, is like you were open to receive and then apply, right? Somebody else may have clung to her and gotten into a situation where they were dependent on her, right?
Right.
And so
because I used to just
yes, exactly,
and noticed that it had became me,
yes.
And it wasn't off of I don't like myself, so I'm going to mock somebody else. That's a whole different thing. But it was more so like I want to learn that type of behavior.
Like there's a skill that I
that's a skill.
Yes,
exactly.
That's a skill,
and you can learn that from someone else.
But that comes with a level of humility, right? So that's that ego thing, right?
Humility before
yes, yeah. Like that's the ego thing where I have to be humble. I always say, I remember reading this, like, humility is when like you humble yourself, right? Humiliated is when life humbles you for you. Like, like one of the two is going to always have
that shit.
Yes, exactly, right? The God will humble you.
Right.
And so, yes, right? And so, like, can I allow myself to be humble enough to see like, oh, there's a gap here.
Right.
And I can get something from this, and I can take something from this.
Instead of filling it with something tough.
Exactly. Or judging that person.
It. Right.
Yeah,
right.
Or judging that person. And so I think, like going back to the question that you asked around like, how do we get to that point? It's a lot of self-awareness. And for me, like when people get into like that wall where this is how it was done, this is just how I am, not to quote Dr. Phil, but like, how's that going for you? Or again, like, are you willing to do something different? Like, and again, start with the easiest thing that you can do.
Right. But a lot of people want that self gratification or that they want to level up. But with leveling up in life, you have to change.
Yeah. But you have to also, so when we talk about like change behavior, and this is something that I don't think is talked about enough. When we talk about change behavior, that grace to yourself is so important because we are really out here like breaking generational patterns. Right. And so
most definitely.
Yes. And so me leveling up is going to be scary. I'm going to doubt myself. I'm going to possibly dip my foot back.
I'm going to be judged.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to dip my foot back into, what I was doing before because I have to now regulate my nervous system all over for this change, even if it's the best change of my life. Like I have to be ready to receive it. We always hear that. I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I remember hearing a phrase like, growing up, like be careful what you pray for because you just might get it, right? Like, are you ready to receive what you have prayed for? Like if I'm used to somebody, not being nice to me and I meet someone who's nice regardless of the level of intimacy, I'm looking at you like, why are you being nice to me? You're over there smiling all the time,
And also, if I'm receiving what I prayed for and this person is everything that I wanted and desired, am I ready to make changes with myself?
Exactly. Yes.
Because when you want change and you're praying for things, there's some things you got to let fall off.
Yes.
You can't say, this is me, this is who I am, and come on in.
Right.
And your house is a mess.
Yes.
That's not how it operates.
Yes.
You gotta make way, make a new room for somebody to come in and feel comfortable.
Yep.
Okay, I want to stay. I want to sit here.
Yes. Like, and we have to acknowledge that, like, everything that we desire or we're working towards, we have to make space in our lives to give that thing or that person like the time and the attention that it deserves to stay. Like everything that we do, right? And so, like from cooking more to working out more, like we have to give that thing. And so many of us, I think because of social media, just going back to that, like are so used to seeing like instant gratification, right? And so it's like you see this on social media, but you don't know the hours or the years or the preparation that went behind it and the intentionality.
And that's why it's so easy to judge.
Yes, right. And then you try to do it, and flops, but you haven't like prepared your life
Right.
to receive it.
Right.
You haven't made any modifications, just
That's
like you
not how
said.
real life
Yes,
works.
exactly. Exactly.
It's not.
No.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes.
That's real life.
Intentionality, right?
Right.
Like, I want to do this, so I'm gonna carve out 10 minutes a day to read about it or research about it, or do something that makes me get into the space to be
And
able to
also
receive
have
it.
the patience to
Yes.
allow it to unfold.
Right. In its
know.
own timing.
Right.
Mhm.
And not mine, because
Right.
a lot of people, what they'll do is, because it's not unfolding at that moment, is, oh, I'm on to the next.
Mhm.
You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Like
No.
that.
Mhm.
So when it comes to entrepreneurship,
Yes.
Relationships,
Mhm.
You have to allow it time. You have to put forth
Yes.
the work,
Mhm.
the blood,
Yes.
sweat, and
Mhm.
tears. And you also have to cater to it.
Yes.
Cater. Is that what you said? Not cater.
Be curious.
Curious.
Mhm.
Yeah. Be curious and cater.
Yes. Exactly.
Because if you're not curious,
You
and
won't know
you're
how
just
to cater.
striving
Yes,
for
exactly.
the goal,
Mhm.
You're missing everything else.
Yeah.
You're missing the whole process.
Mhm.
Because you got to learn something from it,
Right.
so you don't go back to where you came from.
And you missing like the many small goals that you're gonna hit along the way, right? Like I know. So just to bring it back to parenting, like I know parents will often come to me and like, my child is doing this. How do I stop them from doing this? And like the one thing I always say is like, parenting so many times is not about the child; it's about us, right? Like I don't give anything to change the child, but I can help parents change themselves, right? Because your child is not here. And so I'll have parents come in and say, like, well, they have a moody teenager and they don't speak. And I'm like, well, just keep speaking. And right, just keep speaking to them. And the child will one day like speak back. And instead of the parent saying like, oh, it's nice to talk to you, like the parent is like, oh, you finally speaking today that you're doing. And it's like, you don't even realize that you are helping that person back and forth because you were doing and I'm still getting it. Yes. Yeah, like, oh, you finally got around it. And we do that all the time and don't even realize the impact. But we do it to ourselves too, and so
good example of what you do to yourself.
Yes, exactly. And so like with the curiosity part, and like you said, the catering part is I'm gonna cater to this thing that I want, no matter what, right? Because that's like, instead of anxiety, like that's foresight and faith.
And you have to be consistent.
And I have to be consistent, right? And then I can be curious about it, and allow myself to try different approaches, right? Like,
oh, I tried that didn't work.
So now I'm
And also, even though you tried it at that moment, that might have not been
the moment.
Timing.
Exactly.
So try it again and keep trying it until. Because if you keep knocking, one of them doors is going to open.
Yep.
I hate to see people just give up. I haven't been told much when it comes to my career, because I had that control. However, and it comes from listening and paying attention. My grandparents were entrepreneurs, so they actually instilled that into me. So I was able to handle it once I got to a certain age. But even though somebody say no, or you didn't accomplish it that one time, doesn't mean that it's not meant for you, and it's not going to happen.
And if somebody say yes, it don't mean that it's meant for you either. What I'm saying?
Right. And you can do it and figure out, hey, that's not where I want to go.
And so that goes back to, you have to make sure your framework of yourself is there, and understanding that like a no is just further preparation for your yes. And when your yes comes, you will be able to distinguish between a healthy yes and an unhealthy yes, because there's some unhealthy yeses too, right? Like, yeah, you can do this, but it's going to come at what cost and what price. Like if I'm so, I remember watching an interview, and they were talking about entrepreneurship, and they said like, sometimes as entrepreneurs, we will take bad deals because we're desperate.
Right? Money ain't good.
Right. Or I need to pay. And so can you start to see like, I'm going to have my yeses and my nos based off of like either my skill set or my goals versus like and you'll start to see you're getting more and more opportunities based off of who you really are,
Right.
versus like grabbing for all the shiny things. Yes, it'll fall in place.
Right. Mm-hmm. Everything that glitter isn't gold.
No.
You know, and I had to learn that a lot going through my career.
Same.
I ended up going to the salon and making the most money I ever made, and it was beautiful, it was gorgeous. But the toxicity of the people that was in my environment, when I say it pulled me down, you know, and it was all off of jealousy. You know, sometimes you can't let people see your success.
Yes.
You know, and one thing where I think where they did wrong was they was speaking about what everybody was making. You know, so if
it created competition and jealousy
and conflict.
Yeah.
You know, and when I say my aunt came in there, she came in there and said, look, this got to stop. We prayed over the whole place and it stopped. But the person that was coming for me, when they decided to get rid of all of us because they couldn't control our money anymore.
Wow.
That was the first one that they went after and said, you got to go. You know, so you just got to be careful, you know, how you operate and how you get to where you're going. Because number one, you never know who might hold the key to your success. And number two, you never know if that's a setup for you.
Right.
You know, so business, entrepreneurship
is a whole different ballgame. It is like I see these posts on like social. I'm like, oh, you don't have no business. Like you don't have a business because you wouldn't be saying it like that. You know, it's a whole. You have to learn so much more about yourself, and you are going to get tested by fire.
Yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. So how were you able to maintain, you know, going through your process and dealing with, you know, different situations as far as being a doctor to keep yourself motivated and going?
I think for me, let me make sure I'm being honest. One, I think I have a good support system, both personally and professionally. I know I do. And so I don't have yes men. I wish I did have some from my children too. I wish I had some yes men sometimes. Like they are like, no, you're this, and at the same time, like so, like everybody on my team, like we have, you know, the values of the company. Like I'm really intentional about who I build with. Right. And then I think personally, life has just taught me that mental health concerns are not respecters of titles, right? Like because I'm Dr. Tara, that doesn't exempt me from feeling anxious or feeling depressed or having a rough time or crying or having my own trauma that I have, you know. And so I think that for me, it has made my realization of like my need for self-care even that more like noticeable because I deal with and support like survivors of trauma in so many different ways. I can't do that if I'm not taking care of myself because I had a situation last year where I lost someone very, very dear to me, and I was still trying to go, and my body said, "Go." God said, "Sit right here."
I think I'm kind of you said it on social.
Yes,
you ended up leaving.
Yes, like that life.
TikTok.
Yes, oh yes, yes. Like
I was like, yes, but you know, sometimes it takes things like that to happen in order to give you a wake up call. Right. You know, do we want bad things to happen?
No.
We don't want bad things to happen, but sometimes it's a wake up call for you.
That you're doing too much, and like for me, I had to come to the realization too that I had to heal some things, like where I was like, oh wow, I should know what to do because I'm Dr. Tara and I should know how to take
title.
No, doesn't mean anything. It does not mean anything. You are a person first, and I always, you know, and it's funny I say that externally, but I had to look at myself in the mirror, like, oh no, like you're not exempt from this.
And that's another thing we go through, because I'm young, because I have all these degrees, or because I own my own.
Right. Yeah.
Or, we use certain things to be an excuse for why you're not doing what you need to do.
What you need to do. Yes. Yes.
Or I've been doing this all my life. No. No, you're not exempt.
Yes, exactly. You're not. And I think like when we get to so one of the, and I'll just take it back to parenting, because this is something that, having a teenage son, a Black male, something that I have to calm myself in mind. Like, you can do everything quote unquote right. And you still can't control it, right? And so knowing that, like, I want to be as loving, as kind, as fun, as compassionate to myself as others, because you don't know when life is going to knock you the hell out, right? Right. And so how do you prepare? Like, I always think about the scripture, like, God prepares a table in the presence of man. Like, how do we prepare ourselves, that table for ourselves when life shows up? Right. I think for many of us, it's the first step is to sometimes, like, know who's coming to your table. Like, sometimes we act surprised when certain things come up. And so whatever, and this goes into like whatever I can do to get out in front of things, then I would say that. So if I know that, like, I'm always feeling overworked or stressed, or, these kids or this person, like, how do I prepare myself for them being in my life? And I know I'm not going to, get them out of my life. What is it that I need to deal with this person effectively? And then I think too, when life shows up, am I able in those moments to cling to something that, like, brings me a sense of peace, or like a sense of faith? Like, what become my declarations? Right. And I'm big on people writing it down, or like drawing a picture using artwork, but getting it out, like that creating, right? Exactly. What are your declarations over your life in this moment? Because as you're surviving hard times, like when those more beautiful times come, you already have your foundation set, on which you can build. And so I think those are some ways. And then knowing that, like, every storm, like Maya Angelou says, like, every storm runs out of rain. So am I able to, there's going to be some moments of that storm where I can swim. There's going to be some moments of that storm where I'm holding on, and just waiting for it to pass. And there's going to be some moments of that storm where I can float. But all of it's going to bring me back to shore. Right. And so just allowing yourself, just allowing yourself the grace, and it goes back to what you started us off with, to not be okay in that moment, right? And because you know that it's going to
eventually be okay. That is a very positive way to look at things, and knowing that things don't last forever. This too shall pass.
Yes, this too shall pass.
But when we go through certain situations, sometimes we can ourselves blow it out of proportion and not give ourselves grace. So if you can this week, give yourself grace.
Yes.
Grace to mess up. Yes. Grace to, love on yourself and love on others, because, there's always going to be a storm to come, but you want to make yourself vulnerable and be able to handle life in a positive way, and cater to yourself.
Right.
Because this is life.
Yes. And like, positivity isn't like not that toxic positivity, but like, this is hard. I'm gonna go sit down, right? Like, that's being
learning how to cope.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So we definitely gotta invite you back.
Yes, thank you.
Because we gotta get to our other thoughts. Yes. And also, what I just talked about, learning how to cope. Yes. And having grace.
Yes.
So thank you guys for tuning in today. This is Tina from Her Epiphany. And
how can people stay in touch with you?
How can people stay in touch with you?
I'm on social media at it's Dr. Dr. Tara, Tara, on Instagram. I'm on Facebook I have a Mighty Networks. If you go to my social media platform and click the link tree, you can join our Mighty Networks, which will be launching this summer of 2023.
It might
It's like a app or a platform where members can get together and it'll be like conversations.
also like a social.
Like a social, but it's private.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So you have to subscribe.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. It's an app that people can download.
Okay.
Yes.
And also, like far as your practice.
So they can reach out to me on 2 ways. One is through our company, Sage Wellness Group, www.sage, S-A-G-E, Wellness, WELLNESS, Group, GROUP. I feel like I'm in a spelling bee, .com. And then also at itsdrtara.com. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This was so, I mean, I know your community loves and values you, but like this feels so good to just be a part of this. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes.
And also like, share, subscribe to my channel, Her Epiphany 2 on YouTube, and also Her Epiphany on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So thank you for tuning in today. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to ONFIRE-TV. We are a 24-hour independent news and entertainment channel. We produce original movies, documentaries, reality-based shows, and podcasts. ONFIRE-TV is made possible because of viewer and listener support. Go to ONFIRE-TV.com to become an On Fire Plus member. Your dollars and your support have kept us going, and we are just getting started.